Previously on the stop motion reviewer.
A 25-year-old who collects Transformers and gives people brain hemorrhages with excessive ear rape memes rebrands his channel to doing shitty 3 AM challenges. Meanwhile, in Japan, bot posting is ready to climb up a fucking wall to impress a deep-fried Gundam meme and blow a Transformer while jamming out to Linkin Park like a fucking tool. Meanwhile, Rhinox fucks Air Razor with his 10-inch Rhino weenie, Ultra Magnus turns out to be fucking poggers, and all hell breaks loose when my wallet gets torn a new asshole by a Transformer the size of a human child. All this and more on this exciting episode of What the F***. So lately I've been in kind of a frustrated mood because I haven't been seeing any of my videos perform lately. So I did the natural thing and bitched on Twitter about it, and YouTube support basically told me my subscribers were just spam or plebs or whatever. Couldn't possibly be that people like my garbage. But then suddenly T-Pan pastes decided to Leroy Jenkins it all over Twitter, and I now only reached 1,000 subscribers and gained 100 fucking new ones! Nice! This is the most channel growth I've had since 2019, when my channel started. Here's the thing though. I review things that are way too difficult to make videos on once every 2 weeks. Between script writing, editing, animating, making epic gamer memes to cram into my videos like a dumbass, and experiencing the existential horror of being a retail employee working through a dumpster fire supply chain and labor shortage brought on to you by America's stupidity, I found that uploading consistency hasn't exactly been my strong suit lately. So for today's 1,000 subscriber special, I'm going to review something simple, sensible, it won't cost me a fucking kidney donation. Let's do a review on this entirely reasonable purchase. How's this for a reasonable purchase? If you've been with this channel for any period of time, you know that I'm an absolute simp for Autobot and or Decepticon nobodies, particularly those of the comic book variety. And this year's been the absolute year of comic book nobodies, becoming absolute rockstar figures. Rotorstorm, Spinister, Tiger Track, Select's Hot Shot, and like the Power Dashers, I guess? These things have all been absolute bangers, don't get me wrong, but never did I ever think that Hasbro would develop the testicular fortitude to release a 19-inch tall transforming Ark whose robot mode is based off an obscure comic book character named the Last Autobot. In order for you to truly appreciate this thing, you have to understand how much something like this means to Transformers fans. This has never been a thought in the back of Hasbro's mind, but this year Hasbro's been giving us fan service that we didn't even know that we wanted. Beast Wars made a comeback, rumored Unicron trilogy figures might be coming out of the Legacy line, Transformers fucking Prime figures might be making a comeback and we might be getting a deluxe knockout, the person made me find out I'm dead. I'm getting sad. It's such a goddamn beautiful thing. It really does feel like a classics renaissance in terms of Hasbro knowing what figures to release and what the fans want. They seem to almost know what we want better than we know what we want. Too bad Hasbro Pulse is fucking trash to everyone outside the United States. All complaints aside, this thing has quickly made its way into becoming my favorite figure of all time. Yes sir, check out this absolute dump chungus. This god gets everything that I've wanted out of a Transformer this year. A big, stupid, oversized Autobot with a ton of goddamn weapons who's not at all apologetic about being like the biggest dumb robot of all time.
Mr. Squidward! I should kick your fucking ass!
So check out this absolute dump chungus. This giant Chicago-style deep dish space pizza is one of the most iconic spaceships of pop culture iconography. Even people not affiliated with the Transformers brand would recognize this ship as that thing that crashed in the volcano in some distant repressed childhood memory and or trauma. So how is this Goliath of a figure gonna hold up in the grand scheme of things? Well, the paint on the spacecraft seems to be all over the place in terms of quality. The yellow they use is about 3 shades too bright in my opinion, and I think it's going for a kid-friendly, primarily bright yellow color scheme that tried to be the right shade of edgy but didn't quite get there. A lot like the War for Cybertron trilogy, but it's not total shit this time. The unneeded battle damage is comprised of a single layer of silver paint, and I think they were trying to make it look like the paint was melting off, but it kinda had the inverse effect and it didn't work well at all.
but the blue on the back of the boosters looks like a custom job that someone did with care by hand. It's really amazing how these boosters look like they glow and take an ungodly amount of heat from the sheer power it takes to get this mammoth of a ship off the ground. It's more powerful than fucking flex tape. The blue and yellow highlights pop out extremely hard and flow well with the mechanical detail of this absolute Goliath of a star cruiser. The level of sculpted detail on this thing is astounding, from the fully decked out cockpit, which has computer layouts on display from the inside, the absolutely gigantic tampographed Autobot logos proudly displayed on the sides, along with an absolute shit heap of heat. However, there are certain areas of play value that feel more restricted than what they probably should be. Like, this guy has 12 turrets, but none of them rotate or move at all or do anything. They aren't even blast effect compatible. He does have landing gears and a ramp for what has to be the smallest Optimus Prime in existence to climb up. Unfortunately, this goddamned mammoth doesn't exactly scale well with core class anything. But if it did, it would have to be the size of a goddamn refrigerator, so I can forgive it for that. The general shape of the spacecraft feels kinda like a shortened down chibi version of the Ark though. It's slightly too compact and the silhouette isn't quite perfect. The gaps on the side also kinda put a damper on this mode's otherwise solid shape. These pieces do need to be clipped onto the outsides of the spaceship mode, which is generally an easy process but can be kinda fiddly and annoying at first. There's also some simple issues with build quality, mostly at the front of the ship. The tabs underneath the ship pop out way too easily, which sends them essentially just flying across the room, so they have to be pushed down slightly and then pulled out to the sides in order for you to start the transformation the right way. There is something really cool about this interior of this thing though. Normally you'd think that the inside of the chest would just be some hollow chest cavity or whatever, but the inside isn't even hollow. It has an entire command deck to put the world's smallest sculpted Optimus Prime into, and all kinds of technical layouts, a navigation globe for him to command, computer modules in case he committed fucking wallet Sudoku and got HasLab Unicron solely for the purpose of getting that tiny ass Rodimus Prime statue. But get this. This entire command deck is a separate transformer. Yes, sir, meet the Pussy Destroyer Alpha Chad Mainframe, who's unironically my favorite part of the set. He turns into not only a command deck, but also Teletran 1. Do you have any idea how awesome it is that Hasbro finally had the guts to sell us a 2-scale Teletran 1 for figures to interact with, but also turns into a freaking robot? This is exactly my kind of stupid, and I'm loving it. They should do a whole line of Autobot and Decepticon droids that transform into set pieces from the G1 cartoon. Coming out with these set pieces and props for older fans is a gigantic untapped market that Hasbro could profiteer off of, like, I don't fucking know. Insult late capitalism joke here. Mainframe's transformation into robot mode is a stupidly simple process, but can also be kind of a pain due to the tabs in the top that form his arms. They have to be bent against very thin plastic that doesn't have the propensity to break, but might over time. It is just a guy squatting down with a bunch of flaps to cover his ass, but my god, this robot mode is the gloriously dumb auto dipshit drone that I've been craving in my life right now. I've established this whole headcanon with him where he's a lot like Robot from Invincible. Super confident and intelligent, takes over a whole fucking different dimension and goes completely goddamn insane in the comics. You know, normal life shit. The light piping on Mainframe might as well just be LED lights because hot damn do they glow like insanity. I can't make them not glow. The problem again is build quality. The hips on this thing are hot garbage. The mushroom pegs are way too loose, and he can barely bend his knees while staying stable. The mushroom pegs undo themselves with virtually no pressure, and it can be really annoying trying to transform this thing as a result. Mainframe features 12 points of articulation, which, if we're being honest here, ain't great for a deluxe. His back flaps are heavily restrictive of any free movement of his joints, and the idiotic back slab with just the whole command deck on his ass just looks dumb as rocks. Bitch, are you trying to hide the fact that you don't make any sense as a concept? Do we really need Mainframe to make sense? He's that super nerdy, overconfident tech guy who the Autobots underpay for the apparent amount of mass shifting fuckery he has to go through to be giant extreme computer of death. He's essentially just Steve from accounting as an Autobot with some generic war story, because we can't think of anything else. Oh, did I mention Mainframe could be used like a chess minion so the art could be like Soundwave, but fucking radical and extreme? Is Frenzy yellow? Having all these pieces of fan service make the set infinity billion times more perfect than what it already is, and I feel like that in terms of value, the amount of extras the set came with make up for the difference of height in figures like Fortress Maximus. Now the Ark's transformation is actually a very weird thing, because he's essentially a retool of Combiner Wars Silverbolt. The legs scrunch up in basically the same way, the arms work basically the same way, and the front of the vehicle just overlaps his chest like a basic bitch car former. Only this time he does it in a way that's fucking radical! It's actually a really simple but effective transformation, but this thing's a heavy bastard to animate. Like, it's a full body workout just moving the goddamn joints on this thing. But doing so frame by frame with no sticky tack or anything to hold it down is an absolute shit show to handle with this colossal dipshit. I can't tell you how many awkward positions I had to go through to make the animation work here. Now this robot mode right here is everything that a Titan should be. Big robot go He's gigantic and not at all apologetic about his size. Like, yeah, he isn't as big as Fortress Maximus, but with a vehicle mode like this, can you really argue with it? I would also like to demonstrate how far the joints on Titan class figures have come. These are the leg joints on Fortress Maximus. They're loose and floppy, the foot won't stay clipped in, they're overall hot garbage and they can't even hold up their weight. There's only about 4 detents with a stopping point, which makes the animation way too fast and choppy to match. The Ark has 15 detents for one full leg movement. So if I cut down the frame rate, I can make some insanely smooth animations with this thing. Now this is the part of the video that I'm about to bring up that's going to piss a lot of people off. Because this thing isn't exactly completely free of any quality control issues. The right shoulder on my copy of the Ark was so tight that it would barely move out of the box, so I had to move it around and hope it would just loosen over time. But of course, in a very Hasbro-esque fashion, the right shoulder joint just fucking exploded instead. So now his arm just flops there and it can't even hold up its own weight. I'm sorry, this is a $170 19-inch tall figure, and the shoulder basically exploded on day 2 of me owning it. This is why I don't like ratchet joints on Transformers. Hasbro's never been able to get them right. They're always either way too loose, way too tight, misassembled, or just outright restrict the joints more than they provide it with additional structural support. But for the most part, the joints actually move really well on this thing. The articulation's on the really weird side though. The head joint's really stiff looking and only rotates because it's kind of fused to the neck in a way that looks dumb. Again, the shoulder rotation on the right arm's just outright broken, and he has these weird and stupid Barbie hands that have like 1 joint to them, and 4 fingers are just fused together, so he looks like some dipshit trying to show you what crab claws do. But check out this absurdly high kick. He can practically kick himself in the face. That with double jointed elbows and wrist rotation really add to this figure. There's also actually a really cool couple of mechanisms that this figure has in terms of how to handle its hollow parts. The arms have this batshit system of hinges that follow the hands as they fold out to fill out his arms from the back. And his legs have a mechanism very similar to Seed Starscream, where the back of his calves just zoink out of nowhere to fill out the hollowness. It's such a brilliant way of handling hollow parts, and I think we should be using these joints more often on mainline figures. God, I don't even have the words to describe how stunning this thing is. He is him. He's his own thing that was created from the ground up, so despite the extreme simplicity of this design, he owns it like a boss-ass bitch, and handles it with simplicity and finesse and grace. Yes, sir, despite its flaws, the Ark is the most dumb, unapologetic fun that I've had all year. There are issues with build quality in certain areas, joints are either weird on my copy or just outright fucking broken, and some weird paint decisions were made across the board, but don't be under the delusion that this thing is anything less than the best thing I purchased all year, because this bot mode and ship mode is stunningly awesome.
This thing is a physical embodiment of what Hasbro can do if they're allowed the creative freedom to come up with an original design without being hounded to death by screen accuracy obsessed fans that want to nitpick and complain about everything. This thing is deeply imperfect, but that's what I love about him. He's fun, simple, posable, and just screams giant, stupid, fun robot energy. This thing was absolutely worth the wait. Not sure about the goddamn finance hole it tore me, but you know what? Fuck it. Big robot go brrr.